2019 that week. So it peaked in 2019 and has been on a relative decline since 2019. Really having its like kind of peak bounce back moment when the original like Fortnite OG mode came out in 2023, where it, like repeat again, and then I've been on like a steady decline since then. And like I'm looking at the graph right now, it just kind of goes ooh, oop, oop, and like did the Simpsons thing create a spike? Yeah, but is it anywhere near where it was in 2019? No, not even close. So I've always felt that Fortnite has been a game on decline for a while now, and part of that, and I'll love you comment and give me a POV. Part of that is because they left iOS, for a fight, and I don't think they ever and never will get that audience back, not at the same level they had it, and I think that's been the big setback for them. Now, they'd argue that was a fight worth having, and fair enough, but I think the game Fortnite itself suffered because of the kind of elongated kind of back and forth fight between Apple and Epic Games. But again, maybe it was worth it at the end of the day. Maybe it was a sacrifice they're willing to take. But ultimately, I think the winner of that is Roblox. It's clear as
They,
day as Roblox won that. So they stepped in where Fortnite left.
hold on, just sorry. One of my buddies says it's waiting to load.
Oh no, so you didn't get any of that take? Oh well, you
No, no, I'm
tried.
watching it on my own YouTube here, and it's going here. And it's funny, I am a huge Simpsons fan. Like the theme of my bar mitzvah was The Simpsons playing sports. I grew up with The Simpsons, and last week I was in Disney with my family, and I went sure to go to the Simpsons World in Universal because I needed to go get a beer at Moe's. I needed to have dinner or lunch at Krusty Burger. So like I was gone all last week and I was just itching to play so badly. And, I finally got home and I got to play. And I got to say, like, I'm a little disappointed. Uh, the smaller map, not much smaller. I was dying right away, and it's a rebalancing of the seasons, and it looks kind of cool and stuff like that. But I couldn't even really explore. But the one thing that someone brought up to me, which I thought was fascinating. So I have two kids, a 5-year-old and a 7-year-old. Both of them, as of like 3 weeks ago, started loving The Simpsons on Disney. They started just streaming through it, and it came to this point of, is it possible for Fortnite to resurrect the Simpsons more so than the Simpsons to resurrect Fortnite? And I thought that was a amazing question because millennials are kind of getting to this age where we have more money to spend. We have a little more time when we could get away from our kids. Like, will we be bringing more life to this, or is it going to be the inverse solution?
Yeah, interesting. Let me take so yes, I think Simpsons is a millennial brand, clearly. And it's not the only animated brand. I mean, we can go off our sector and go, well, South Park's having quite the renaissance right now, creatively anyways, right? It seems like they're, if anything, back in the zeitgeist, in a way that I don't recall them being in for some time. So good for South Park. But these brands have been just around for since the 90s, right? Simpsons since the 90s, South Park since the 90s, Family Guy kind of since the 90s, right? At the tail end of the 90s. These like iconic animation brands. But to your question of like, can Fortnite fix Simpsons or Simpsons fix Fortnite? I think they're just mutually helping each other. And you mentioned prior to us going live that you were on a fun vacation at a place that where magic happens and a giant mouse walks around. So um, they own that. I mean, is this a trial balloon for them to say, can we like? And this, I follow this stuff as a weird hobby of mine, but I follow like theme park drama, and like the Simpsons IP is up for theme parks at the end of like 2 years, and Universal's not going to get it back. So is Disney going to build Springfield inside Disney? Maybe. That is a common question that people have. Like, would they bring The Simpsons inside of Disneyland or Disney World or some part of the parks, right? And they have asked that question in like a survey. And so that's it's Disney has kind of poked the bear on that, right? Like saying, would people be interested in the Simpsons land at some point? So maybe this is a trial to see, do kids care, right? It's because that's the point, right? If they see increased engagement in Fortnite, maybe they're like, maybe there is an audience for The Simpsons in the broader Disney portfolio outside of just keeping the legacy kind of animation series going as long as that team wants to do it, right?
In reality, it's not that different from, NCAA coming back last year, right? Where, hey, this is a franchise that we haven't heard from for a while. Yeah, The Simpsons has been here, but who's really heard anything from it, right? Like, can this have the same spike that the video game industry has been doing, but in the more animated side, right? Not the actual gaming side. And I hope so as a Simpsons fan, but I also I'm realistic as a Simpsons fan.
So I had to look it up, Greg, when we were you brought I was like, is Roblox the real winner in like the kind of the deterioration in Fortnite based on our tool? And the answer is like yes. I probably share this as an image on LinkedIn because I never looked at it like this, but in like 2020, it literally was like Fortnite or Roblox was here, Fortnite was here, and then they cross streams, and then Roblox is here, and every time, and like they kind of grow and like it's I wouldn't say correlation is causation, but they're definitely on a path where one grows, the other one's sinking, right? And kind of always been my theory about the live, like we'll call it the forever games or the sandbox games, or you want to call them, or the platform as an platform as a service or whatever. But like if Roblox is coming up for younger kids and Minecraft is just kind of Minecraft, and we can talk about GTA, and GTA is over here for older kids. Who's getting squeezed in the middle? Fortnite. That's just getting squeezed in the middle, right? And I just see in the data. So the Simpsons thing, we saw a spike. Congrats, but like, was it the spike that brought them back to OG mode levels? No, not even close, right? So, it's a cool moment. It's awesome that they take these swings. I mean, K-pop was successful for them too, to be honest, and that was like a really interesting game mode where it's like, oh, good idea. They should fight a bunch of demons, and like I like that they experiment and like bring in pop culture. Honestly, as a Daft Punk person, watching their last music video, Contact, I was like, this is amazing. I'm so happy that this music video exists on my favorite song off their last album, Ram, and I was shocked that they actually did an official music video after they broke up to celebrate the kind of Daft Punk experience inside of Fortnite, which is like amazing. So I'm right there on the nostalgia train, just different nostalgia, less Simpsons, more Daft Punk. Yes, please. I'm there. But they did that, and so Fortnite has relevance, and it seems like a chameleon able to kind of blend in with various pop culture and kind of break through at these kind of interesting moments. And maybe that's what it is, kind of moving forward. It's a game that's in a slight decline. They haven't quite figured out the creator side of it, right? The islands and all that sort of stuff. Maybe they get better at it over time. They've made a lot of changes in policy, etc. So maybe that will kind of shift the kind of growth trajectory for them, but or maybe they're just a place where brands can easily integrate because it looks cleaner than Roblox and it becomes a place for pop culture moments, right?
So I was at MDev this weekend, right? This was the Midwest Developer Conference out in Madison. Great job by Ben Cavallo, the Wisconsin Gaming Alliance. Super fun. I want to talk about it. Yeah, clap, clap, clap. And you're at GameSpeak, which we're going to talk about, but I want to talk about this point we're talking about because I was having this debate with a guy at one of the after parties. He's a UEFN developer, and he's like, it's been tough getting work recently. I've been putting stuff. I'm like, have you considered Roblox? And about half the people in the room gave me this death stare, like, oh, like I must have hit a nerve. Like I, these UEFN experiences are fantastic. Daft Punk was weird as hell to me, but I see the appeal to Daft Punk people, right? It was just a completely different thing than people expected. And I respect the hell out of that. Simpsons is a whole new map. So they're really pushing the creative kind of barriers of what you can do from within Unreal or UEFN, right? But the player base is, like you said, starting to kind of diminish. And it's hard to find these experiences, right? I mean, discoverability on these platforms is really good. So, like, I mean, am I wrong in suggesting, hey, check out Roblox as a platform as an alternative to UEFN? Or you think, based on what you're seeing, like, is that more of what's to come?
It's interesting. The people I talk to in this space operate across all of them, right? They do stuff for Minecraft, they do stuff for Roblox, they do stuff for UEFN. So that's my experience of talking to these people is like they don't really they're more like we're just UGC creators inside these platforms and we kind of like will flow between the platforms that either suit what we're going to get our money from or suit our kind of interest at the time, right? So I've talked to people where they kind of just kind of like flow through everything, right? And they all talk about GTA like what is GTA gonna do? What is the sandbox there gonna be? Which we could put a pin in that because I think this thing is becoming Half-Life 3 in terms of its myth building. I was like, what are you guys expecting for this game? It's insane with things I've heard, right? But I digress. I think I think the challenge for all those platforms though is discoverability. I think you nailed it. To me, that is the thing that no one has quite figured out, and that's one. That's for me the biggest problem facing the gaming industry is discoverability. How are games discovered? That's what we track in my game is are games being discovered basically? Are they getting attention? Is like the whole thing I do. But I see the data. I'm like, yeah, the biggest challenge in gaming is discovery. It's easy. And I don't know what the easy. There is no easy solution because it's too many gardens, too many incentives to promote your own thing. Go on Steam. Talk about Steam, but like go on Steam. What's the first thing you're gonna see promoted on Steam? Dota, CS:GO, right? And it should be. Those are games. They should promote their own games. That makes sense. It's their first party stuff. And then they have a whole bunch of store stuff, right? So I don't want to like throw Valve under the bus, but like everyone's incentivized to promote their own things. And I think that ultimately kind of puts the third party ecosystem in a weird spot where there's not a really good mechanism for discovery. And at some point, these platforms police themselves where we're there, or at least their games are getting more spotlight through promotion, through placement, through their algorithms that probably favor their own content, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. But that's just the nature of it, and that makes discovery even harder and harder. And that's why I find it odd that TikTok for us has become the place of discovery. Like if you crack TikTok, that is a great place for discovery because their algo is pretty unbiased if it gets attention, and they're just like they'll just flood the views at you, right? And you'll get attention. But that's a tough thing. Like, wait, I have to go to a social media platform, make content there in small bites, and then just roll the dice and see if I get discovered there. It's like, well, yeah, it seems to be working for some. That's
I,
kind of what we tell people.
I will tell you for the first time this week, Player Driven Live is streaming on TikTok. So we're streaming on TikTok
Oh,
right now, and we have 10 viewers on there right now. I don't know how to
what up?
interact with them or engage with them, but if you're watching us on TikTok, hello, subscribe to the channel because it
Thanks,
does.
Algo.
Yeah, right. The algorithms are just so. I mean, I get it. It's being discovered on social media is kind of like what my challenge is, and it's no different from a game, right? And to your point, if I was making a game, I'd want to try and get out of the Steam ecosystem. I think it's a giant walled garden. I think it's fantastic if you're already playing in there, trying to build yourself up, but it's like trying to find a needle in a haystack. When we were at a Midwest Developers Conference, we were talking a bit about the different platforms, and one that came up a lot more is WebGL, game streaming directly on the web, and how that's becoming more powerful. And
It
it's
is.
kind of this.
That's all right.
Again, this is where I'm going to toot my horn, right? Like this is the play anywhere that Microsoft has been talking about, and now we have the Steam machine, right? Talking on Steam, the Steam machine, which I love the controller. It reminds me of the Duke from the Xbox. If you use the Duke, it's like, how do we find the most uncomfortable controller ever and one up them? Let's put two D pads or touch sensitive pads where no one can possibly reach. I love it. I think it's great for so many reasons, but I know you're going to rush and get one. Let me know what you think about the Steam machine, Colin.
You mean the GameCube? The I
GameCube, yeah.
GameCube. Is it funny that Steam just looks back at Nintendo's form factors? Like, what was great? The GameCube, and just kind of go at that, right? We need the cube again. What's great? The Switch. They just built their own version of the Switch. I joke, but they're clearly taking inspiration from the small company in Japan that nobody wants to talk about being wildly successful. But I digress. I thought I was not going to buy a Steam machine. I was like, this is stupid. And I thought about it more, and I was like, God, so many of my games are on Steam. It just does, and plugging in my Steam Deck into my TV, it doesn't run that well. So, you know what? Maybe it does make sense. I'm anti appliances in my living room though, so that's my kind of knee jerk too on that one is I am a big fan of portability. I am a big fan of cloud gaming if it ever can come to fruition. And the idea of buying another appliance for my living room to play games is kind of a slight turn off to me. But I am more likely to buy that than I ever would be an Xbox. Like, is that the nail in the coffin for Xbox? Sorry, Greg. Probably. I mean, I don't know if I could play every Xbox game on Steam day one, and I was looking at two pieces of hardware, and I was gonna be like, which one would I rather have? I'd probably buy the Steam machine, right?
I mean, but is this not what Microsoft wants you to do? Like, is this not aligned with their vision of, hey, you can play these games anywhere, even on your Steam machine? Like,
So are
it's
they a publisher, not a hardware maker? Is this what we're going towards?
yeah.
I,
I mean,
I
it
so
seems like yeah, 100%, right? I mean, they said they're gonna release a premium Xbox, right? It's probably gonna be the Steam Machine V2 with OLED built in. I don't know, but like they'll support the hardware, right? You make the hardware, we'll provide the platform for it. I think this aligns perfectly with the Microsoft vision, and this is what they were trying to say is again, it's about reducing the friction to get someone playing a game, right? So you don't need the console anymore. For the first time this morning, I was actually playing Xbox, and I launched one of their Play Anywhere type of games. I forgot what they called it, and it's Xbox Anywhere, but like it launched right up. It took maybe like 30 or 45 seconds. I was playing Disney Starlight Street, whatever it is, just to get back in that magic of last week. But like it loaded right away. I'm just like, I think there's a play here. And as a gamer, yeah, you want your Xbox or you want your PS5 or you want your dedicated hardware, but you're taking the PC and bringing it to the couch. We're making couch co op now for PC games. And I think, again, reduce that friction to get a gamer playing your game.
Well, I will say because I'm at GamesBeat this week, so shout out to GamesBeat, and I was there, and I think one of the most constant conversations I had was WTF Xbox. Like, it basically would be the theme, right? Where everyone is perplexed, confused, and shocked at how much value destruction Xbox has been frothing on themselves for this past year. It's just people are kind of flummoxed by the whole thing, and a lot less confidence in them kind of moving forward relative to everybody else in the ecosystem, I would say broadly speaking. I mean, they just released 2 games this month and both flopped. Does anyone know about Ninja Gaiden 4? Did anyone know that came out? Did everyone know that it basically died? What about Outer Worlds 2? Same thing. I came out. They spent a lot of money marketing that game. They had a own half hour at Summer Game Fest promoting that game, and it flopped, right? So they're 0 for 2 going in with Call of Duty, which I think will do fine. But again, last year, if Black Ops 6 lost $300 million and it hit the highs in our system that it hit, I have no idea how they're making money on this one now. Like, I'm like this. I just assume this is going to lose even more money because it's not going to do as well. And if the cost structure is the same, I mean, granted, yes, they did raise the price of Game Pass to play Call of Duty Day One, so maybe they properly attributed a little bit more value to Call of Duty. But I can't see how they're going to make a $300 million off of like that'd be a $600 million swing in profitability. I don't see it with the numbers I see right now in terms of how it's tracking relative to other Call of Duties, and in part because they're giving it away for quasi free, and clearly that's not going to be a profitable adventure for Call of Duty. So is this a loss leader to drive Game Pass subscriptions to a higher tier, and or a loss leader to make sure there's no churn on Game Pass for the subscribers you do have? I mean, I don't know. So it's a question that I have, and that's one of the things I would say coming out of it. So I don't mean to rain on your Xbox parade, but I look at the console. So people are saying, are the console wars? Oh, the console wars are just getting started again. I'm like, console wars were won. Nintendo won them. I understand like where people have this POV where it's like Nintendo just sold 10 million Switches in like 4 months. That's insane. That's insane. Like, how? Like, everyone was I remember the conversation in this industry in May going, "Oh, Nintendo, they're charging way too much for this machine. Are consumers gonna push back? Could they even hit the highs of the Switch 2?" Meanwhile, they just bulldoze right past their Switch numbers, and, like, if the trend holds, the Switch 2 will be the highest selling console of all time if they keep growing at the rate they're growing. Like, it's insane. And everyone thought it was too expensive. Oh, Nintendo, you're the secondary device. You're really going head to head with the primary device, and you can't win that war. Well, they're clearly winning that war. So I guess we all look dumb, and they're the winners of the console wars. That's it. They're the winners.
What do they have?
They're
Two
they're
games
the
for it?
yeah, and someone's like, "Well, what about third-party sales?" I'm like, "They don't make nothing on third-party sales." I was just digging into this. Like, they made 6 billion lifetime in like revenue earned sales through third party across the Switch generation, and likely to continue to climb as they continue to have more of the share, especially in like other markets. So I think people over index to the West. Like, yeah, people on the Switch in the West, but people on the Switch everywhere, like Asia, right, everywhere. And honestly, if they ever figured out their Nintendo-ness with China, I think that thing would blow up to a whole other level. But they're not in China. That's my understanding, right? So, and I could be wrong. So, audience, tell me if I'm wrong. But my understanding is the Switch is not in China, at least not officially. So, if they ever got
Really?
into China, yeah. So it's like one of those things. Like if they ever got in China, wow, man,
We got probably
that would
got a
be a
good
whole different.
knockoff though.
Oh yeah, and you can pirate it, and there are, if there's a will, there's a way, and I think the world loves Pokemon too much to not have a Switch to play it on, right? Again, that game is gonna the last Pokemon. It's gonna do the same as their floors are so high across all the Nintendo titles. It's wild. Anyways, Nintendo won the console wars. Now, another interesting question I think is the ecosystem war. So that's what Steam is playing, and like the most interesting thing for me to Steam wise is they build hardware as a proof of concept, and then they go and license their OS and their operating system and their tech stack to the other OEMs to make versions of their like their the Android model. They're like, okay, yeah, we will make our pilot device and it'll sell a couple million units. That's great. But really, what we're trying to show is all the other device manufacturers build your machines on our tech stack, our OS system on Linux, and our ecosystem, and you'll sell more hardware, and you can make it more powerful, whatever. And I think that's going to be interesting to see how it plays out because I think this is just a foray toward Androidification in the living room where I could see more devices making their way in the living room that's all powered on Steam. There's just, ultimately just different hardware stacks for different needs. Like one that's less powerful, less cheaper, one that's more powerful, that's more expensive, all running on Steam.
Yeah, I heard. Well, so this is kind of carry along with that point, right? I heard that Google's releasing handheld hardware coming out soon that's more focused on gaming. And I think iOS is also probably going to be, well, iOS always says they're going to do stuff and takes years. But I think it's funny, as maybe, again, maybe we're seeing Xbox leave the hardware side of gaming. Are we already seeing those next studios or companies, right? Google and such entering it, right? Are they going to say, hey, why don't we expand the Android operating system? We went to a gaming lounge, a LAN gaming lounge in Madison, and it was awesome. They had all these cool, like I remember back when I was in high school, we used to go to LAN parties in these lounges that had hundreds of PCs, and like it was so cool to see it. And there were kids there playing Roblox, and they've never actually watched someone play Roblox before, and like the way they play these games, and the way one kid was just building a map the first time he learned it, like people have mobile devices not to talk with anyone, but to play games these days. And I'm wondering if, hey, maybe they found that golden goose that Nintendo's been talking about since the 80s, saying, hey, these are what you need to create. And maybe they're creating more handheld hardware to compete with it. And again, I think this goes along with what Microsoft is betting on. The question is another giant corporation going to be the one that comes and saves it, right? And based on history, I'm going to say probably not.
Yeah. Yeah. I I'm interested to see like in a post switch to bonker sales, like how fast do the other hardware manufacturers run toward handhelds and kind of try to scale their own version, right? Now you see Steam Deck doing really well. You just gotta think that's the next major gold mine, like because like again, the Switch 2 sales speak for themselves. They're just insane. So more so than Switch. You wrote the Switch off. I think the industry wrote the Switch off as a novelty. Like, oh yeah, cutesy Nintendo with their dual thingies, and it's the Go, and like, oh, they found like a creative little niche doing weird Nintendo things, and then they just Apple. Then they're like, okay, the next device is just a more powerful version of the previous one. And you're
Like
like,
it's the
okay,
Wii
so
U. I think people wrote off the Switch too. Is the Wii U phase, right?
yeah, so that's the thing that always just baffles me. Is like if you look take a longer horizon and you start with the Wii and you end with the Switch 2, Nintendo has dominated the console market. Stands for the small period of time that was the Wii U generation, but we all focus on that like a lot. Like, oh man, what that Wii U phase. I'm like, how long was that? 5 years? Like in the last 20? Like, okay, so 15 years of dominance, 5 years in the desert. Microsoft's a decade in the desert now. They basically killed Halo, and I think the only way Halo's gonna come back as a franchise is on PlayStation, which is odd. I'm excited. I'm like, yeah, let's go, bring it on PlayStation, baby. Let's play the original Halo game. All right. Heck, make Bungie work on it. That could be so weird, but
Yeah,
like,
yeah, that'd be amazing, wouldn't it?
just put them behind it. I don't know. That won't happen, but like, yeah,
Something
bring
on there.
Master Chief back. Bring Master Chief to PlayStation because like Xbox killed him. Like, and so he doesn't matter to anyone other than millennials, and that's sad and that sucks. He's a great character. It's a great story. And now he's coming to PlayStation. Hopefully, he has more room to kind of be reborn under the guise of remakes. Which you know what, remakes are a great way to bring back franchises. Capcom was in the desert too at one point with Resident Evil. They were making the game became so lore series like rabbit holey didn't make any sense anymore with Raccoon or the Umbrella Corporation and like yada yada yada. And people are like, what is this series now? And they're like, you know what? We're just gonna start remaking our games, and we're gonna go back to making like not quite an anthology series, but kind of an anthology series where they're not like telling one gigantic story, but they're kind of telling stories that do tie to the larger lore, but they're not. You don't need to know the entire like history of Resident Evil to kind of understand the plot. And then they Now Resident Evil Requiem is gonna be the biggest game the first half of next year now that GTA moved out of the way, right? That's like, okay, well, Resident Evil is gonna own the first half of next year. And that how'd they do that? Remake, new game, remake, new game, remake, new game. They kind of went into a cycle where they just brought people back to the classic Resident Evil games and remastered them, and then release new ones in between. And I think that's been an outstanding strategy, and Capcom deserves all the credit on that one. So maybe that's the future of Halo. Maybe we'll get Halo. It does well. Maybe there's a new Halo. Maybe we go to Halo 2 and remake that one next. I'm Halo 3 and Halo Reach, which personally that's my personal favorite other than Halo 1 is Halo Reach. That game's great.
Reach is good.
So
ODST's a special game. That one's like the outcast of the series, but it was completely
are
bonkers
you a
when it
Halo
came
Wars guy?
I probably would have been after it released on PC. I never want to play an RTS with a controller. That's like a rule I've set for me in my life. It's just I never want to have to deal with that. Yeah, I never got into it, but I did a talk at MDev and I spoke about Halo Wars because I spoke to a gentleman that was at Ensemble Studios when they took on Halo Wars, and they said that Bungie gave them books upon books of the Halo lore and the Halo literature, and like it was things like how light refracted off armor, what the sounds on the planet were, and I was just like that is insane. Like that would drive me crazy, but I can understand how you built such a world and like it's a vibe. I was talking with someone about it. It's just like, no matter what game you play of Halo, hate it or love it, it feels like Halo because I think they're so grounded into the story. And the same thing with Mario, right? If you look at Mario 64, Mario Galaxy, Mario Sunshine, right? Like they feel like the same game because think they take that information so seriously, and I love games that do that because I'd say they're timeless, but Halo's really kind of pushing it to the limit on how timeless something can really be.
That's awesome. That's awesome. That's cool. What a random and interesting
Yeah,
story. That's cool, man. I it just shows how much love and care went into that franchise in its like heyday, where like Bungie really cared about Halo and really cared about the lore and everything else into it. And it fast forward now 15 years or whatever it's been since they were the kind of owners of that franchise, and I just think like honestly, both Halo and Bungie have seen better days, so it's a sad thing.
where's Marathon ranking on your
It
list
was
here?
it was so interesting question. Marathon was a game that we thought blew the doors off, but then again, they kind of started fumbling with all the marathoning. But like we thought the initial reveal of it was outstanding. I was like, wow, this game is gonna sell like crazy. And they got marathoned and then they kind of stumbled, and I'd be curious to see if they do put it back out there in what form and how do they message it to the broader market. And like you got to think they want to try to make it work in a post arc raiders extraction shooter. Like they see that these games can be popular, so wildly popular in the case of arc raiders. Like it's not even done, peaking yet, probably. So that's awesome, and we'll see how that one goes with marathon. We should probably talk about the big. I mentioned it kind of in passing, but like the big news of last week was like the GTA decided to move to November, and so
Yeah.
what are your thoughts? I'm giving my take on this in different formats. What are your thoughts, Greg, on that one?
I'm looking at it from a studio perspective, and Rockstar knows a lot more than me, but I think they're just kind of lost on what to do with this game. I think it's become such a big beast and behemoth of a game that I don't know how it could launch and meet people's expectations and be what it wants to be. I think I think it's good. Well, I don't know. You never want to see people go through crunch, right? But they said the game was going to release this year. Now they delayed it a whole year. So how long have they known this was going on, right? What are the reasons they're doing a bunch of union busting right now, which people aren't thrilled about as well? In terms of gaming, to me, it doesn't matter when it comes out as long as it comes out and it's a polished game. I think that's a good thing, right? But I think it's again the scope has probably become so big on this thing that it's just kind of like how do we launch this and how do we build this out? And I tend to think that I mean it's got to come out, right? But I tend to think part of me is like, is this game ever really going to come out?
Um, Good question. I would think that GameSpeed that's the second most talked about thing, other than the what WTF Xbox. The other one would be like GTA. What now, right?
Yeah,
And so I think about this in like a couple of ways. And so I've said this before, but first way I think about it is, wow, take two. I mean, your first point. I'll go backwards. They didn't actually ever say it was gonna come out this year. This is like a myth. Like Rockstar and Take-Two never said the game was coming out in 25. This is the internet piecing together clues from earnings calls, and they never said it on the earnings call either. So there was never a formal
Bullshit.
date announcement. They moved it once now. They moved it back once. They announced a release date in May, and they moved it back, 6 months. Right? So that is the first move of the release date of this game publicly. So that's one. So that's a myth otherwise. So that's one. Two, though, I think largely, like, I'm like, wow, they did the industry a huge favor in that they did the announcement and they did the interviews before the Game Awards. Because this is when a lot of games get their announced date, quote unquote, locked in, right? And in that vein, like they could have waited till mid-December. Like, there's no reason. Like the move was going to happen. They could have sat on that information and then told the industry in December that it was moving. But they did everyone a solid by announcing it in November, so all those creative agencies making those trailers for Jeff Keighley's award show are gonna go backwards and change the date if they can. Like, okay, can we take May? Can we take May? Like, so I think that's going to have an effect. You're gonna see games that have made dates that probably never would have had made dates before. So I think in that sense they did the industry a favor. They also did the industry a favor by not releasing it in September. They went to November. Now, only one game is going to be impacted by this November release date. All right, two. All right, and we've talked about them both actually. Fortnite. They always have the big kind of annual drop in November. I wow, that's gonna suck for them, right? Like having GTA come out the same period as their big thing. It's not good for Fortnite. Again, I think they're getting squeezed in the middle by Roblox and the young, and on the old side GTA, and they're gonna get pinched in the middle. And are people who are 16 gonna want to play Fortnite, or are they gonna want to play Grand Theft Auto? Grand Theft Auto. So I think that's gonna hurt them a bit, right? That would be my first guess. Second guess is COD. COD releases in November. So they are gonna have a relative down year, I think, with this call. I still stand by that take. I don't think it's gonna be catastrophic for Call of Duty, but it's not gonna perform at the level of Black Ops 6. I think that would be my bet right now for Black Ops 7. So that said, so that if it's a down year, then you assume, oh, next year will be the up year for COD. But now it's like, well, now with Grand Theft Auto coming out in its month, so COD will have to move out of October or into October. Like they just have to. So I think that's the effect on the industry because they're not gonna like the audience for Call of Duty and the audience for Grand Theft Auto are like a circle. It's not a Venn diagram. It's like a circle. It's a circle. It's like, okay, cool. So are they gonna play Call of Duty? Or are they gonna play Grand Theft Auto? The most hyped game of all time. It's like, well, they're gonna go play Grand Theft Auto. So I think that's
Well,
gonna hurt COD next year.
I'm gonna play. I'm gonna ask a question here because I agree with you, but I'm gonna ask a question. How many 16-year-olds do you think are really excited about Grand Theft Auto 6? And remember, a 16-year-old was, I'm looking at a calendar right now, about 3 years old when GTA 5 came out. So, yeah, we're excited about GTA 6. Are you sure?
Oh,
16-year-olds are excited
100%.
about GTA 6.
100% I'm excited. 100%. I look like a shadow now, but
Yeah, you went
shout
full
out to
to
the bike.
an anonymous
Shout out
user.
to like
He's going to say some really damning
this is
stuff here.
amazing. This is amazing. No, I think that I think this Grand Theft Auto 6 is the first multi-generational game where you can look across the age cohorts and say, yep, they're excited. Yep, they're excited. Like Grand Theft Auto as a franchise is very much born out of the millennials. We all had Grand Theft Auto 3 on our PlayStation 2. That's like where the modern GTA kind of came forth, right? So that's one. Let's see if I can do this. Oh, oops. Then the next bit. Oh, there I am. Fix it. I forced my camera to do
Yeah.
things. So like back to my point. So millennials, we grew up with Grand Theft Auto. We grew up with three, Vice City, San Andreas, four, and then five. Right. That was an amazing 12-year run where just banger after banger Grand Theft Autos came out. Right. From our teenage years into our early 20s, yada yada. Right. Then the next generation, the Gen Z, they grew up on GTA Online, so they only know one Grand Theft Auto game, and that's GTA 5 slash GTA Online, and they've been playing that game for 15 years, 12 years, right? They've just been playing GTA Online. So I actually disagree. I think, yeah, the people that are excited for Grand Theft Auto did not grow up on single player Grand Theft Auto. They grew up on Grand Theft Auto Online, which is actually goes to my last point about GTA 6 and news. I think the game is done. I think the single player story narrative game is done. I'm convinced of that. What I don't think is done is the mythical unicorn that is Grand Theft Auto Online 6, right? Or GTA 6 Online or whatever GTA Online 2 is. That I think is the thing that they're going to continue to work on frantically to get it in the best place possible. That'd be my guess. Because that's the one they can't miss. I think GTA 6 is going to sell whatever it's going to sell. I think it's immune to anything, criticism, reviews. It's just going to make a gajillion dollars. Like it's the die is cast, nothing will take it off the train it's on, right? Our data kind of supports that they'll be the biggest game of all time. So, okay, cool. So that is a foregone conclusion. But people really are their expectations are really there for Grand Theft Auto Online. That's where the expectation is kind of like out of hand for me. Where I joke, but I swear, like I've heard things like, oh, it's gonna be like Roblox with higher fidelity graphics, and I'll be able to build my own city, and it'll connect to their version of Florida, and yada yada yada. I'm like, okay, oh, it's going to be Web3 based. We're going to have crypto in there. We're going to be able to trade assets and NFTs. We're going to have real ownership of things. I'm like, who, who are, no, it's Grand Theft Auto Online with better graphics. I mean, and like people are like just putting their hopes and dreams of the entire future of the gaming industry on this Grand Theft Auto Online thing. And to me, that's the thing where like I maybe it can live up to expectations, but holy lord, are the expectations on this thing completely insane now, in my opinion. Like what I've read and what I've seen when people talk about like what is GTA Online going to be, and I'm like, okay, so it's a lot, right? And so, but for Rockstar and Take Two, it's the money making thing. They'll make a bunch of money on the game, but where they make their profit is going to be how long can they make money on GTA Online because that's the cash cow of that company. And so they can't mess that up, right? They have to transfer everyone from GTA Online to GTA Online to GTA 6 Online, and that transition has to be smooth and seamless. And you have one real initial shot to pull everyone over, and you don't want to mess it up with a buggy game and have to operate like two experiences at the same time. So that's my hunch.
So here's what I'm thinking. So one of the things I heard a lot here is that the next big cohort in gaming or group in gaming is going to be Gen X, right? And I believe Gen X is the one above me, which is millennial, right? That's because what's
The Gen
happening.
Xers.
What? Yeah, Gen Xers, right? That's what the
Yeah,
one.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah, yeah. So because what happens is that me as a millennial, right? We'll use me as the prime example here. Is I have two kids. I am poor because I have two kids and own a home, and I have no time on my hands. So I'll play games when I can. You have Gen Y, Gen Z that are younger, that are first coming into the world. They have some money, but then you have the Gen Xers who are about to retire. They're empty nesters and they're going to go back to the things that they've done. And Gen X were the ones that pioneered video games. They made those first video games, they played them, and now they're going to want to go back into it. To your point, they want probably a really strong single player experience, right? So they're going to want to find that single player experience. And holiday season next year, great. I'm going to get my first console because it needs to be a console because it's GTA, and I'm going to get it. And what I love about their partnership or Roblox or whatever they're doing it, right, is this UGC is huge, man. And I know Tess is listening and she works with UGC. Like, there's going to be a gold mine of people that can milk these the nicest way possible, right? Gen Xers with these experiences online and basically getting into their wallets because they have this money to spend to enjoy their times. And I think it's really smart. And I do think GTA is banking a lot on this. I again still disagree that if they take too long, I think younger kids are going to not care about GTA. I think they already have their Robloxes and they're not going to get pulled into this. And I hope I'm wrong because everyone should be playing this game if it ever comes out. But I think Gen X is where the money is going to be at.
Oh, interesting. I have well, I do think Gen X is a pretty small generation. So I think my brother's a Gen Xer, so I use him as like my like he's definitely not close to retirement, but like does anyone retire? I mean, the boomer generation is still running our country. So I don't do does anyone retire? I don't know, right? Like
No.
do we just kind of continue on until we don't, right? Maybe my first take. But I do think not to get like incredibly socio-political, but like if there's a lot of time to be had on people's hands as things in our economy shift toward automation in terms of knowledge economy work, and now there's a not insignificant amount of people just kind of sitting on their hands like looking for the next thing to do, and they have a lot of free time. That gaming is going to probably be the one of the winners there, especially for the cost conscious gamer where they're going to want to maximize their value out of an experience, so they want hundreds of hours. So it's a sad thing, but I'm like, oh, maybe that's how gaming gets out of its like rut that it's been in, is like it just needs people to have more time on their hands, however they end up with more time, and thus they go play more games, right? So I think that could be a boon to GTA or anything else. But I disagree on the kids part. I think kids want to play what their teenagers play, and the teenagers watch Twitch or live streaming content creators who do role playing in GTA, and they want to do that because GTA is cool, GTA is edgy. The GTA trailer is show that Rockstar still has its fastball on just mocking prod American culture, and no one is political about it. They just go, yeah, that's pretty funny, right? Florida man Gator thing, like twerking down Miami on a top of a car. Like, sure, let's go, Rockstar. Let's make fun of Miami, modern Miami, and kind of the Americana of the moment. And to me, I think that is going to drive a lot of young people. That and its edginess is going to drive people to play that. I always thought that people will age out of Roblox. I think Roblox is very centered on kids. I know people in Roblox like, no, we have so many older people, which I want to go into. I'm like, yeah, you have the older people that you don't want. I'll leave it there, right? That's the older people you have in that ecosystem. Sorry for anyone that's a Roblox builder and or fan here, but that's just like okay. But I think it's a lot of kids, right? But kids age out of things, and I think they'll age into Grand Theft Auto like they have thus far, and that's the big bet that Rockstar and Take Two are making with the next GTA is like they want to ensure that they are the 17 and the cool 16 and older game that kids play behind their parents' back because their kid parents don't want kids to be playing Grand Theft Auto. Funny, my parents actually bought me Grand Theft Auto 3, not knowing what it was. Would I buy my kid Grand Theft Auto? Absolutely not. I'm like, no, I know exactly what this game is. I play this game. Like, there's a lot going on here that is not for you, my 6-year-old, right? And so, absolutely not. But when they get 16, 17, when you play Grand Theft Auto, I firmly say yes because it's cool, right? It's just still got the edge. It's still cool, right? And you know, as long as they nail that, I think they'll be around for a very, 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 very long time.
It's weak.
Like
You're not gonna let them play, man.
right. I do joke. Sorry, Roblox people. I have to say this. I do joke with my family or my friends. I go, I'm more apt to let my kid play Call of Duty than in Roblox. Just as I'm like, yep, Call of Duty. I know exactly what's that in that system. Know exactly the audience there. I'm not a 6-year-old, obviously though. Not letting my 6-year-old play Call of Duty, but I'm more sellable on that one. But then the Roblox
I'm with
ecosystem,
you. I
broadly
don't want my
speaking.
kid playing Roblox, and he hasn't even asked yet. So I'm knock on wood, happy with that.
Oh, good for you. Oh, that's awesome. My kid asked about Minecraft, so we just started playing Minecraft. Like, oh, Minecraft. Okay, I can get behind this. I it's Microsoft's best biggest you're a Microsoft guy. Their biggest asset is Minecraft. They have a forever game that prints them money and is massive globally. And it's got a subculture of its own and kids love it. So Microsoft has one of those things. It's just never talked about by them ever.
Yeah, and I
PlayStation
don't want to
Nintendo
start.
doesn't exist.
I don't want to start this conversation now, but with the new Super Mario Galaxy movie announcement, we are all anxiously awaiting for the Minecraft 2 movie announcement, right? It's got to just go back and forth. Keep Jack Black's.
What'd you think of the Mario Nintendo Direct reveal? Did you watch the trailer?
I did watch the trailer. Yeah, it made me realize that I don't really know who Rosalia is or whatever her name is. I think that I was over Mario by the time that came out, so I don't really know her. I know there was a Pikmin reference. It's that I also saw they talked about K-pop Demon Hunters 2 for a 2029 release, and it boggled my mind at the difference of how quickly the Super Mario 2 movie is coming to market as compared to K-pop Demon Hunters. And then you look at some of the other big games that come or big movies that come out, and there's many years in between. So I feel like this is going to be a rush to market type of movie. But you know what? It's fun. The kids love it, and it's all Mario fans.
Interesting.
I'm game.
Yeah. Um, I think all the parts that are, I mean, one, Illumination is really good about making animation films quickly. They have like kind of a process over there where they're not slow. So, like, look at the Minion movies and the Despicable Me. They're pretty quick on those, generally speaking. So that's like one. But so shout out to them on that. But you and two, like, just look at the Spider. I'm a Spider-Man guy. Spider-Verse movies, but they come out every like half decade, and then
Yeah.
like it's just the style of Sony animation that is what's going to take K-pop a long time. Plus, they got to make songs, man. You don't want a Moana 2 this, where you release a sequel with like less than bangers. Like my family, Moana, super fans. Moana 2, my wife turned around and goes, I guess they want to pay the guy to make the songs again, huh? And I was like, no, these songs are bad. And so you don't want a Moana to it where you come out the next movie and you don't have like a string of bangers. So like let them cook would be my K-pop take. Let them cook like let Rockstar cook, let K-pop cook, right? Let them do their thing, right? And but shout out to that, they got nominated for that Song of the Year for Golden. That's insane. Like,
Oh, a
what
great
a ride
song
for the.
though, man. Come on, don't hate. And you know, I was
Oh,
in a
I have no hate on it. I'm like, I'm just good for that, for those, for Huntrix,
I
like,
love it.
awesome, right?
I was in a
Um,
I stayed in the Moana themed hotel at Disney, and I gotta say, there's a few bangers on that second soundtrack. You know, you've had to make it through that
oh,
that if you want to call it a movie, you had to make it through there. But there's some bangers on there, man. Can I get a
that was not a
Chihiro?
movie.
So
That was a TV show strung together, man. That was
it
like,
was.
it's a tough watch, but you know what? Doesn't matter. It made a lot of money. Good for them. So let's bring it back to the gaming bit. I forgot where my train of thought was going to go on this. Oh, Nintendo and Lumine. Yeah. So the Mario movie, I was like, wow. They one. I'm a big Bowser Jr. guy, so I was like, yep, makes sense. He'll be in the sequel. Bowser Jr. He's got his paintbrush. He's gonna be the main antagonist. That's great. Awesome, awesome. They hid Yoshi. I thought that was weird. You know, Yoshi was in the bumper of the last movie, so it's not like he's a surprise. It's like, well, yeah, Yoshi's gonna be in the movie. No Yoshi. I was like, well, are they saving the reveal of Yoshi? So that was my other take. And then ultimately, this is Nintendo, man. This is why they laugh the gaming industry. They literally are firing on every cylinder there is to fire on. The hardware is selling incredibly well. Their games are selling incredibly well. Mario Kart World had a 98% attach rate with Switch sales, so it's a 10 million plus seller already. Like, congrats to Mario Kart World. And you look across the theme parks, they're continuing to expand. There's a Pokemon theme park going to be built in Japan now. And then you go to the movies, which is like all the flywheel for them, man. And it's like, oh, the movies, they're going to pump them out quicker and quicker and quicker. We're going to get a Zelda movie this decade. We're going to get I think it's actually in 27. We're going to get a Zelda movie. We're going to get a new Mario movie. They're clearly going to branch off Mario into different kind of, sub like spin-off movies. Like Donkey Kong will probably get a movie. But like, you look at how they're doing it. So let's case study this. And I don't know if this is exactly what they thought, but like, Mario movie, put Donkey Kong as the secondary antagonist to Mario, right? Like the frenemy, right? Oh, you're a rival, now we're friends, right? He is in that movie. Seth Rogen, a core element to the plot. Move forward. Now the movie makes a gajillion dollars. Move forward to the best Donkey Kong game, Donkey Kong Bonanza, and front and center sells really well. Like, and why is that? In part because people are now reintroduced to Donkey Kong through the movie, does well. So now he becomes a core element of its own game series, and with the successful Donkey Kong Bonanza, and why Nintendo was confident that it could be the next move or unit mover for their Switch 2 platform, right? So I look at the other Nintendo B-list characters, I'm like, okay, so are we gonna get like, is Kirby gonna be the next one up? Like, I'm in San Francisco. They have a Nintendo shop. Did I go to it? Absolutely. I was like, I gotta go to this place. I was blown away at like how much stuff I'd want to buy there. I was like, oh my god. And they had a whole section devoted to Kirby. So I'm like, God, they're really gearing up Kirby to have like its moment. And Kirby Air Riders is coming out, and it's tracking to be above Kirby in the Forgotten Land, which is the most successful Kirby of all time. And it's a third air kart racing game coming out this year, and it'll probably do pretty well. And you're just confused. I am, as a not a big Kirby guy, but I'm like, okay, Nintendo, I guess you just are able to kind of roll through things and kind of execute at a high level. And the question to me now, to bring it back to our data a little bit in the data side, is Metroid Prime is a big question to me, because like that's the one where I'm like, I don't know. I saw the trailer and I was like, man, this feels like 2000s games.
It's
I don't know,
also,
man.
I mean, it's a much more niche audience, Metroid, than any of their other IPs, right? Kids can easily jump into Mario or Yoshi or Donkey Kong, whereas Metroid, you're talking about is it a Metroidverse type of game? I guess that's why they named it that, right? Like,
Metroidvania, yeah. I mean,
yeah,
yeah. Prime has Prime. The Prime 3 came out almost 20 years ago. So it's been a very long dry spell of Metroid content. This game has been in trouble. I mean, they announced it in, I think, 2017 or 18. So it's been on in the working on. I think they scrapped the whole game and started over again. So they didn't like what they were building for Metroid Prime 4, and then they scrapped it and rebuilt it. And now they're putting out in December, which, I'm a big proponent of putting games out in December, but like, and maybe that's will be the thing that kind of drives the success for this game. But right now, I'm like, I don't see the huge swing in demand for Metroid Prime, so I'm really curious how this ultimately performs, and is this a great Metroid game, because that's one of their core B tier franchises, in my opinion. It's like they will want Metroid to become popular, right? And Samus is cool. She's got a gun arm. She turns into a ball. She's a bounty hunter in space, fighting space pirates. Okay. And the Metroid virus. And that's all. That's pretty cool stuff. Like, an interesting story there for sure. And you want to think they're going to want to turn that into a film at some point, or a TV series, or whatever Nintendo's going to do, because Nintendo is in the in the game of IP building, man, and they're just running laps. And like, what does this all do? How does this goes back to hardware sales? This triggers 10 million units in 4 months, which is insane. That's the whole point of all this is so they can push more hardware. More people are going to buy more Nintendos because they're doing all this content marketing basically to drive the value up of their brands so that people buy more hardware. And that's the flywheel.
All they got to do is create a card game now and come full circle. Then they'll be
Oh,
back
please
where they
don't.
started, and boom, we made it. I mean, they got Pokemon, so I guess that's that.
Watch out, Block Blast. Dr. Mario's coming back hard on the mobile. They're gonna come at you with their version of block connecting game with Dr.
Dr.
Mario.
Mario really coming back?
No, I'm just joking. No,
That's the first
that's
game I
that's the
remember.
one there.
That's the
That's the
first
one
game I
area
remember
Nintendo's
playing
are
with
good
my
at.
dad when I was like 3 years old on the NES. Was playing Dr. Mario against him, and then versus my sister, and we used to hand off the controller events who would play who.
Yeah, yeah, no, for sure, for sure. I guess lastly, I would say like we were talking about this. The last thing I think I would ask you about is do you think the pain is through like so back to the event like I love that Ben is trying to build out the operations in the Midwest where games can be made anywhere, which I completely agree with. Like they should be made anywhere, and like honestly part of the value of doing that is the cost structure is just so out of whack in the core markets where games are made, at least in America now. Like
Hmm.
or in the, let's say North America, so Vancouver, Montreal, say Seattle, Los Angeles is a market where games are made, and San Francisco Bay Area, right? Well, the costs are just going up. The talent's super expensive. So at some point, you have to kind of move people to at least where they can live a decent life, not being priced out by AI billionaires, and like own a home and have a decent life. So, but to do that in these coastal cities, you're gonna get paid like a gajillion dollars,
Yep.
which drives the cost of games up. So moving it into other markets is really important. But like I think seeing the Square Enix news and knowing people that were impacted by that, I'm like, I just don't think we're done yet, man. I think you're going to see a lot more globalization of game development. We talked about EA. I think that's going to see a push to move people other parts of the world where labor is cheaper, or they can pay them the equal lifestyle, but ultimately they're cheaper in the other markets than they would be in this market in particular, like San Francisco, where I'm at right now. So I just think you're going to see more of that. And that sucks, man. I had nothing else there. Like shout out to the Square Enix people. I'm so sorry that Square Enix is basically like, we want to move all our functions to Japan and
Yeah.
minimize the UK and North America offices.
It's funny. So, I was out there in the Midwest and it was snowing, which exactly everyone wants when you're in the middle of November is snow. And it's just so cool to be there because you have AAA studios there. You have Respawn there that's working on Apex. You have Lost Boys, which is a big AAA studio. You have Raven that's working on Call of Duty, right? So Ben didn't start MDev, right? But he's kind of the chairman of it now, trying to build out the conference. And you can see this community growing year after year. I was there last year and it was probably half the amount of people. This year it doubled it up. It was a much bigger space the way they built it out. A lot of indie games being there. And it's just so cool because to your point, it's about the cost of living. You can live in Wisconsin, Madison for a fraction of the price compared to the San Francisco, LA. I mean, there's no gaming much or not much gaming in New York, but the other coast as well here, right? And the only place where we can't outprice developers right now is Canada. So Canada is still cheaper than we are here in the States. But when you start building that community together, like you can see how everyone engages with each other, how you rely on each other, right? And I think that's what you have to do in order to build this out. It's like, let's just bring this whole community together. You get people from Chicago, you get people from Indianapolis, you get people from Minnesota, all coming to Wisconsin to talk about gaming, play gaming. And then a big shout out to Patrick Jesman. He owns a studio called Alchemy Labs, and he threw an after party. There's not many after parties that go on because you're in the middle of Wisconsin, but everyone showed up, man. People were playing games, people were drinking, people were having a great time. Some great conversations happened. And people are making their own way. And I think that's what we have to do in this climate. And it's tough and it's shitty. But that's what we have to do. And Ben's putting on a great show, enabling people to do this. And I really wanted to pick your brain on kind of Games Beat because you're out there now. And it's a different type of conference. It's still kind of a localish conference, but instead of kind of gamers, it's more business minded, right? So I'm curious on what you're looking
Yeah.
forward at Games Beat.
Yeah, I mean, like, I want to like one of the third conversation that I've had a lot, at least after day one of Games Beat, was I call it the AAA versus the field, and the field is just the infinite, and I think you're seeing it this year. Like, consumers are price sensitive; they're gravitating toward those $50 or less games. Arc Raiders is the recent winner of this, like, slightly less AAA price point model, where where they didn't do it for free. They charged, could bet on themselves. Awesome. A lot of people talking about hyping up Park Raiders, and it's like another example of like the field. I look at it as the field. It's like, okay, so yeah, AAA gaming will continue to exist and they will continue to put out major temple franchises. But would I take that or the field? And honestly, my answer is becoming increasingly the field. And the field is literally everything else. And I think the volume of everything else, it is harder for traditional ways to look at these things and predict the winners, but there are going to be more winners from the field, right? You'll have more repos, more schedule ones, more Claire obscures, more arc raiders than you will having these like temple franchises dominate and like as they have maybe over the last like decade. Battlefield 6 aside, where they made a lot of money, so it's a great success to them. But like broadly, I would just look at the field as like, okay, maybe it's the field, and part of that I think is in due to pricing. So I've had that conversation a lot, and I think that's to me one of the last things I'm really interested in, like getting gauging people's interest. It's like, where do you see this industry going? Like, do you like is pricing? Are we entering an economy where we're gonna have to be a lot more experimental with the pricing model of games? And I'm not saying free. I think free to play is a bit of a challenge, but like charging $20, $30, $40, $50, right? Having a lot more elasticity on that price point. I think is something that if the gaming companies should really, really consider and like kind of look and say, are we really charging the right price at 69.99, or should we be really considering something a bit smaller? Otherwise, we're going to be forced to discount anyways, and that'll cheapen our brand anyways. We'll have to do like a 40% discount on the game or 25% discount, which is going to just drive it down anyways, right? So I don't know. I think that's the thing I'm having conversation about. Is I think is really interesting is the price point of games. I think that's a really interesting subject matter right now.
Well, Test asked in our chat here, is Call of Duty mirrored by microtransactions, right? And it kind of comes down to, will you download a free to play game and download $20 worth of microtransactions, or download a $20 game and download no microtransactions, right? And I think that's what people have to look at, is how do I weigh this? How do I choose my kind of my best path forward? And I think you got to understand who your player is to understand that. Um, she's saying there's alternative as the in-game shop, right? But that's still going to be a microtransaction, right? I'm going to have a lot of trouble talking my friends into playing Arc Raiders because I just made them buy Battlefield and they hate me for it. And now I'm not going to be able to get them to trust me for this stuff, right? So, which is fair, and I get it, right? We played the finals a lot, which was also Embark, and we loved it, right? It was a great game. And I think that was a great stepping stone for Embark to learn, hey, how do my players play my game? You take your learnings from the finals, turn it into Arc Raiders, and you keep building. I think that's how you become that next AAA studio, which I don't know where they fall yet, right? But they're listening, they're doing, and they're building great products, right? The question is, how do you get people to bite that bullet right out the shot, right out the gate? Um, it's tough, especially when a lot of games are free.
Yeah, I mean, I think consumers are increasingly. I mean, I don't have the data point in front of me to say this, but I do get the sense that they're very price sensitive, and they don't want to be like nickel and dime. A lot of the Call of Duty conversation is the fact that they're making it more cartoony, more like Roblox, kind of forcing the transactions in there that like take away from the realism, quote unquote, of Call of Duty, or at least the kind of core like ethos of that franchise. And you see the community blow back on it, and I think that's part of the challenge with Black Ops 7 is like they kind of feel like they're getting burned with Warzone right now, and they're like, no, we're done. And like they glommed on to Battlefield 6, and they glommed on to Arc Raiders, and you know, not nobody's going to show up for COD. Let be clear, but I think less people show up for COD this year than they would want. Right? That would be my bet on that. Right? And in part because of the
Tomorrow.
transactions. Huh?
We'll see tomorrow.
Oh yeah, fair, yeah. Is it tomorrow? Oh my
It is
gosh,
tomorrow.
I'm
I
gonna.
just realized that today. I said, "Oh, tomorrow's Call of Duty day." I guess it's a sick day. No, not this year.
Oh, not that. See, there it is. Not this year. Not this year. But you know what's a 6 day or a sick week, or maybe I have COVID. I don't know. Grand Theft Auto 6 next
Hey,
November.
well,
I will
you might
early
never
holiday.
be sick then. We'll see what happens.
Oh,
Colin, we are almost at time. Let the people know where we can find you.
Colonies. I am, Colonies, Screen Engine ASI, and Mind Game Data. You can find me on LinkedIn, and I write a weekly newsletter distributed on LinkedIn called Patch Notes. Last week I covered Arc Raiders in depth, and I didn't even get to say, but their parallels to Marvel Rivals is crazy. And I think the big learning I have from that, just to kind of give a plug, read it if you're interested, is do two betas. That's the lesson. Let people play the game. Do two betas and then put the game out. Right. If the game is good, let people play it. That's the best form of marketing. So yeah. On that note, Greg, it's always a pleasure, man.
Yeah, Colin, thank you. For the Games Beat, you can check out playerdriven.io. Thank you for joining us today, and let us know what you want to talk about next week.